Fort Knox is about to be audited, and that's imminent. And you're going to see that gold reserves are little to none. What do you think that'll do to the price of gold? And with silver being ransacked with COMEX on the markets, that's sure to follow as well. The only question is, are you going to take action or not? If you haven't, what are you waiting for? And if you have, please take a moment to visit one of our great sponsors here below, the link in the description, and call for the information. It's free. The consultation is free. The cost of not taking advantage of this has lasting consequences, folks. Please tell them John and Chris sent you. You'll be more than happy that you did. Well, and welcome to the podcast. We have monthly with our good friend and retired Lieutenant Colonel Sandy Miarecki with the Air Force, who's going to give us all of the updates on the Republic and all things national and geopolitical. And we'll also discuss some of the financial, as everything obviously intertwines. We'll get her cogent insights on that. If you are new to the podcast, please do like, subscribe, and share, as it helps the channel grow and lets others get the knowledge gaining you have been or are being afforded presently. As you know, Sandy is a retired Lieutenant Colonel with the Air Force, test pilot, the best of the best, is heavy into the Republic movement and is leading the charge in Texas. And we always appreciate her insights. Sandy, how are you doing today, my dear?
I'm great. How are you, John?
I'm well. Thanks for joining us. Always a privilege to have you. So let's start right at the top. At our last podcast we did roughly a month ago, there were some comments from certain people, questions, or what I felt were derogatory digs in terms of, oh, Sandy's part of the wrong side of things, and blah, blah, blah. And you have to be a Christian to say that, to be a part of this and not. So I'm just going to let you, as the horse's mouth, separate fact from fiction. Explain to the audience who doesn't know, because everybody's kind of at their own learning curve, what is the difference between the Republic you're in and the other ones that espouse to be real and are not? And what of the aspect of your faith-based beliefs in respect to your standing? Can you kind of touch on that, please?
Okay, I could talk like 15 minutes on each of those questions. Let's go one at a time. So
Sure.
Remind me of the one about the religious beliefs one, and then we'll go there.
Well, there are some people saying, oh, you have to say that you're a Christian to be in the Republic. And so you're saying no. Okay.
No, freedom of religion means freedom of religion.
Okay.
But maybe we'll answer that one first because it's actually easier. Our founding fathers were very Christian people, and they were very adamant against specific denomination tests because the Church of England is Protestant. And so what if you don't want to be Protestant? Where can you actually practice safely and without persecution? That was part of the reason why they came here. So they were very adamant about making sure that the Constitution said freedom of religion. That is for everybody, with the exception of who is in the government. Interesting. When you look at the actual history, almost every state had a statement, an oath of office, if you will, that says, I am a Christian. I will uphold Christian beliefs and laws as they apply to this Constitution in this state, or something along those lines. And you're like, what? He's like, yes. And it was unceremoniously deleted after about, I think it was in 1961, 1951, somewhere in that time frame, so-called Supreme Court corporate decision to try to remove those kinds of phrases from the various constitutions. It was not in the national constitution. Some would argue it should have been, that you had to be a Christian in order to be an official. Okay, not an ordinary. You can be whatever you want to be as an ordinary citizen. So that's the basis of it. We in this republic require that you uphold biblical laws. Uphold biblical laws. That's what our Constitution is based on. That is what our law form is based on. So that's the requirement. And so you can take that and you can go in so many different directions, right? But that's the actual historical truth.
Great.
Okay. So
yeah.
First question.
Well, so back to the original part of the first question, or part 1A of it is, so apparently there's some dispute about there being multiple republics.
Multiple republics.
Yeah. So can you just touch on that? Why yours is the right one, and there's all that.
Sure. Okay. So there could be, quote, more than one republic. Now, which one would be the most valid is something called first in time, first in line. So it's a law, essentially, a maxim in law. And so whoever did it correctly first would be the authentic republic. Okay, so I think we agree on that, right? Whoever comes second, third, etc. So this republic figured out what needed to be done to reseat the government at all the levels, how to do it, starting at the basic county assembly level and working their way up to states, governors, etc., senators, House, all the positions that you would normally think of as the basic structure of the government. And then a Continental Congress, for the most part, met in November of 2010 and created what they called the Declaration of Sovereign Intent. And so that reestablished the republic, kind of like a new Declaration of Independence. Okay, not exactly, but similar. And it said, this is what we stand for. This is what we're doing. The Constitution is supreme law of the land. Okay. They also filed something called the Proclamation of Claim and Interest, which was April timeframe of 2012. And then that same April, May timeframe was when they realized that they had to now record all these documents in the international systems. Universal Postal Union, the United Nations, the International Court at The Hague, and then because it's the United States, they also went to the Pentagon Joint Chiefs of Staff, okay, to let them know we're here. We've reseated, re-inhabited this republic. That was all finished around the beginning of May of 2012, okay? So that is and then we have to have our own flag because ours was hijacked by the corporate crime syndicate that took over in 1871. So we have one that's very similar. I've got one here if your audience would love to see one. And it's essentially the same as our regular red, white with the blue field and then the white stars. But instead of the stars being in rows, they're in a circle. So it'd be easy to recognize that it is an American flag, but then to see the stars in a different grouping shows you that it's a different flag. And you have to have one because it's international law, it's like, how do you recognize this country? And so that flag is, to establish that government. And so that was all completed. And like I said, May of 2012 was the filing in the international systems. I know it was finished by about that time frame.
Mm-hmm.
So anyone else who says, oh, no, we are the real republic would have to have those same documents-ish, and then filed them with those same systems before May of 2012. Actually, they would have to have their original document before November of 2010, because now you're going to have to do this balancing act of all the different documents. It's like, because November of 2010 was, we are back. We have reseated the actual authentic original republic our founding fathers gave us. And then here's now all the paperwork that goes with that. Here's the package, and it goes to these international systems. So that's how you've got the difference, okay? And I think that was it for the question. I don't think I have anything else to say on that. So I'll let you go ahead and ask the next one.
I appreciate that, my dear, because we've got a lot that we need to discuss today. As always, things are accruing big time. Now, you asked me a question on our last podcast regarding gold and what I thought the price might be. And I have some updates on that I'm going to show you. So I want to show you a couple of slides and then get your reaction to all of it. We'll just populate it out in one shot because I know you can handle it. You're a big girl. And again, folks, not a financial advisor. It's not constitutes financial advice. It's just really good, high quality information for you to use for your own discernmental authority. Now that we got the legal muckety muck out of the way, let me show you this here, Sandy. This is pretty intriguing. So I'm going to show you 3 different slides. So we're going to go to the first one here. Let me know when you can see it.
All right, it's populating now. Looks like the U.S. debt clock.
Yes. So the U.S. debt clock over the last couple of days had some updates. So Elon Musk, as we know, Doge is hard at work, which will answer your query from last time. So you can see he's reverse engineering. As you know, as a Christian, there's light and dark, there's good and evil, all that. Well, the same holds true with finances or anything else in life. There's a debt and a credit side. We've been on the debt side on the corporation. We're now traversing or transitioning, as you know, into the credit constitutional side. And this is how you can see this overlapping economy and mirroring effect. So now he's incorporated some new tabs: U.S. federal interest savings per year, savings per taxpayer instead of expense, which you used to see on the old debt clock in New York. I used to live there. Times Square, I used to see it all the time. Total interest savings per year, savings, not cost per taxpayer. Income tax-free future. Now, before we do that, let's go back. DeFi, bankless future. What does that mean? That means that we're going to do peer-to-peer banking, becoming our own central bank. We always encourage our audiences to do. And you will be able to use like Zelle or PayPal or Venmo and go direct person to person without a middleman being the bank, becoming your own central bank. And you'll do it with XRP in fractions of a second on the blockchain. Okay. Now to the income tax free, we know, as you know, both of us being nationals, Trump removed the Fed into the Treasury, baked it in 2020 during COVID, ostensibly removing the tax-free situation, which is why he can say he's removing the taxes, because he's already done it. And this is just giving the normies an introduction and an on-ramp to a gateway to what's coming. So an income tax-free future, tax savings per year, Treasury dollars per year, U.S. tariffs, taxes per year, Doge tariffs, reciprocal trade, which just means, like for like. It doesn't mean we're necessarily going to get 100% tariff on our end. It's going to be 0% removing sanctions, but we're going to level their playing field by setting them up free and getting something from them to do that. And this is that Doge payment that's coming next month right now. Said 5,000. It's now accruing every day as these numbers reverse engineer. So you can see that number is exponentially getting bigger. Wouldn't surprise me by next month. You take a month in government, especially slashing all this garbage debt that never need to exist in the first place as a cabal maritime corporation, which I know you agree, that number is going to exponentially increase. Who knows what it'll be 3 weeks to a month from now? Significantly higher, I would imagine. Gold car revenue. Remember the $5 million he wants to charge foreigners to start businesses back up here and get their citizenship. So there's that revenue coming back there. I will take another slide. Hang tight with me for a second and show you this. I just had a previous podcast with our friend David, and I didn't get to show this because it didn't come till recently. But this goes to your question about gold. So the paper to dollar gold ratio, right? BRICS. Ooh, what a surprise. BRICS, Nasara, Jasara, all these countries becoming nationalized. Let's see what their gold ratio is going to be. That's what it would be, Sandy, right now at present to pay off quote unquote debt. When we see that there's no gold or little in Fort Knox, as he audits the Fed, as he audits the IRS, the emperor has no clothes. You're not going to need that because that would put it out of the reach of most Americans to be able to buy gold if it went to that. But this goes a long way into answering your previous question. Dollar to crypto ratio. M2 money supply. That means the money you have in your everyday house, you're checking your savings in your mattress, what you spend in the bank, et cetera, et cetera. Dollar to crypto ratio, you can see that number is significantly higher now than it was, let's say, in 2000, right? Total hidden wealth. You've got all the garbage government, quote unquote, organizations that are being fleeced. You've got the OFAC list we talked about. You've got the reciprocal trade and tariffs. You've got China buying gold hand over fist for BRICS, and also the money, the trillions that they're going to owe us. I don't know if you saw recently, but the state of Missouri just won a big case against China for $24 billion for the convict scam. That's one state. If you did every state at a baseline of 25 billion, excuse me, I say million, I meant billion, that would be 1.25 trillion through all 50 contiguous states. Probably going to be significantly more. And that's just one tranche. So you can see China's going to have to pay at least 10 to 25 trillion back to us in a variety of ways. And you say, well, what does that mean to me? This is what it means. These numbers are coming back through Nasara to be returned to the people. That's at present. That's going to accrue, as you know, it's going to be significantly more. And I wouldn't be surprised if it were in the multi-millions when all is said and done. Now, going to one of the next slides I would like to show you. Let me see if I can pull it up here. I thought this was interesting, Sandy. I'm going to go to I have two slides, this being one of them, and I'm going to get your comments on all of it. I just want to show it to you. This came up on Balthor about a day ago. It'd been talked about changing the calendar. And so I'm curious to see what your thoughts are on that. April 1st will now be the new year, which is what it is in the Middle East. That's what it was in the beginning of time before the calendar, the timelines were manipulated by the cabal, right? So you have 28 days like you do in February, but now they've added a new month called Sol. And so you'll have 13 months. And again, the new year will be April 1st. Notice the other pattern too, Sandy, every first day of the month is a Monday. So it's running parallel. So that's kind of interesting. And then the last thing I want to show you is this slide here from President Trump.
Friday the 13th every.
What was that?
We're gonna have 13 Friday the 13th every year.
I didn't even think about that. That's interesting. Throws that Italian superstitious stuff out the window pretty quick.
Right.
Good point. So I'm going to get all your thoughts on that in a second. I just want to lump it in for the sake of time here and pack it in. So I'm going to show you full screen here, or try to. Here we go with President Trump. And let me just make sure the sound is still.
I love the mouth.
Hundreds of billions of dollars in tariffs, and we're going to become so rich, you're not going to know where to spend all that money. I'm telling you, you just watch. We're going to have jobs. We're going to have open factories. It's going to be great.
Okay, so we take that out, Sandy, and stop that here. And so the way we translate it, before I go back to you on all these aforementioned articles, is what he's going to do is the game he played with crypto. He, back to his Are the Deal days, right? He has no intention of putting 100% tariffs on BRICS because he needs them. We've got all those currencies, right? The Nardong Zim, the bonds, the Bolivar, Thai baht, and 209 other countries, all total. So what we think is going to happen on our team, and it's also part of what I'm going to ask you about what your thoughts are, is we believe what he's going to do is use this as leverage. He's always talking about leverage. I will remove the sanctions and the tariffs on your country if you give us the best possible exchange rates, because they don't have printing presses the way we do. And the banks, as you know, will tabulate the currencies through the DELUR machines to certify legitimacy. With Doge's assistance, I'm sure, they're going to corroborate all the daily totals from all the branches in the country that people do when they do the exchange. This is what we got per day, per week, per month. Back to said country. Here's your currency. Go back and recycle it and use it. And we got the best rate possible. So with all these things that I showed you, I would love to get your impressions on that.
I'm going to just count like a couple of things
Sure,
just popped
sure.
up as you were showing me those things.
That's fine.
First of all, I want to indicate that I'm pretty sure none of this existed before January 20th. All of this is new, what you just showed on the US debt clock. I was actually following it on a daily to every few days basis because of those little pop-up windows, that were coming up that was like, the golden age is coming and, all these other things. I don't know, you probably saw that. They moved most of that over to the Telegram or Twitter channel or whatever. So I kind of lost interest. And then now with this new stuff that's just popped up, I'm paying a little more attention to it again because of all these new things, these new windows, right? So you kind of assumed that the US debt clock was kind of working with the white hats in some way, right, along with this stuff. And so this is kind of another indication that's probably true because now we have these new windows. I want to caution people to make sure that you see what it says per what, because there was a couple of them that says per taxpayer.
Right.
Okay, so that has to be adults, usually. I mean, 16-year-olds, yes, can still pay taxes when they're working, but generally you're talking about adults. So you're going to chop 75 million children off of the 335 million, or so. So you're in like the 250, 260-ish range. Am I even doing that math right?
Not to interrupt, Sandy, real quick. You are, but you got to remember with Jassara and Asara, a lot of the illegals and just people are going to be going back to their home countries because they don't need to be here. They'll be safe and prosperous there. So that will ferret out the numbers as well. Go ahead.
That's correct. But I'm talking about only citizens. So there's 330 million citizens in America.
Right.
And however many millions of,
True.
the illegals that are going to go home, like you said.
Yep.
So, so be careful about per citizen or per taxpayer. The other thing, and thank you for showing me the gold numbers, because I know we were talking about that. There's also the gold silver ratio, what it has been historically throughout time. And it fluctuates a tiny amount, and it's like way off right now.
Mm-hmm.
Silver is very undervalued in that ratio. And so there's, what does that mean? I don't know. I'm not a financial advisor. I just pay attention to trends. I'm a scientist, right? And so I've based some of my decisions off of that fact. What I think is fascinating is how quickly this has all happened. I think you agree, because it was just his first month and we were seeing this kind of stuff happening already, right? He is not dragging his feet. He is not letting anybody slow him down. Now, there are court cases that are trying to come up. But just like the the enemy, the left, that was attacking the right in court and dragging these things out. My case is still pending 240, 50 days now that I still don't have a decision in the Air Force Academy case of for them illegally firing me. I digress. So these things are incredibly rapid for a very red-taped government because it's insanely slow in general. But here we are looking at these things already happening. So I'm very encouraged by what I'm seeing in what they're doing. And we talked a little bit about the State of the Union. We wanted to have this podcast after that so we could talk a little bit about what he talked about.
Yeah.
So it's just been, it was torture for 4 years, right? Waiting for this. And now it's like, okay, but we still have to stay attentive. I want to just emphasize that to people.
Yeah.
We never want to trust government again, ever. We want to be, watching them like hawks. We don't want to ever get into a situation where we were, right? The lowest point of the low here with the last 4 years. So, but we needed to go through that because we needed to wake up the normies. They needed to figure out what's really going on, that their government is not on their side and they're actually trying to kill them. And so now that we've all realized that, and we made sure that we got somebody into office with a fair enough election, as we talked about before, that we could have these things happen. Not everything that's going on, I think, is good. Now, is there a bigger picture that we're all missing? Perhaps. Right, the white hats have had 60 plus years to think about this, consider this. They've got folks, that's probably all they do is just think, okay, now what happens if this happens? And then this is what we need. And here are the contingencies. Here we have to go, war game it or whatever, that whatever AI they're using, I'm sure they've got it and are going through all these possibilities. So there's my long diatribe on what you just showed.
No, it was actually a really good synopsis on a multifaceted level of topics and subtopics. So I appreciate that. And again, Sandy, as you and I know from firsthand experience, I laugh when I see the wealth per citizen because I know when Trump keeps emphasizing citizen, he's really saying cross over to national because we're not citizens. Both
unless you use the capital C.
Exactly. Right.
Even that's still
dicey. Yeah. But either way, I'm saying we've taken ourselves out of the corporation, you and I and others. So we laugh because it doesn't, not laugh, but we scoff because it doesn't apply to us. But that's how the public, again, the normies, as you say, don't know that. And so they're being taught on a daily, monthly, weekly basis. And we are the government. We need to self-govern. So we need to not trust in them and trust in God and in ourselves and what he's empowered us and imbued us to do and synergize, as you would agree. That's the key. And so, and all of these things I showed you, Sandy, contribute to the tenor of what you said about May being sort of the back wall. If something didn't happen then, which I don't think that will happen, I think it's going to, then something's terribly wrong. You see, I had other articles I could show you, but for the sake of time and posterity, he's already setting up meetings April 2nd. Why is he doing April 2nd? Because we're now in the second quarter after April Fools, which is superstitious, of course, but is he telling us that, April is the demarcation point? I wouldn't be surprised for him to say, hey, no more taxes. He's already hinting at that. Doge come in and give you, like I showed you, 5,000+, probably more than that. Plus he's already lowering the cost of crude oil, as you may or may not know, so that it weakens Iraq to force them to revalue, which is part of the deal. But it also brings relief because when we kill off this Federal Reserve dollar, which we've already done, I'm just talking about optically, you're going to see hyperinflation. How do you counter hyperinflation? Lower energy costs. Lower barrel prices means lower prices at the pump, which means lower prices at the gas station because of diesel, the trucks.
And utilities.
And everything will exponentially unwind. So it's like, remember that movie War Games? Or it was like DEFCON 5, and then it started.
Shall we play a game?
Yeah, shall we play a game? Another Q post, exactly. Thank you. But it was at the height in DEFCON 5, and then 4, 3, 2, 1, it started to, that tension release point started to cool down. And that's what I visualize in this whole process. So I would say this month in April, to give people a hint, is really, I think, the key months, the key time frame that we should be looking at to see the height of all these things happen. But back to your question, or I should say more of your commentary about you didn't know why silver is so undervalued, because the banks were manipulating it to short the market with paper. But they can't
Oh,
do
yeah.
that anymore because Basel III forces them to do that. Plus Trump with the Treasury, with percent, is now forcing the hand of the banks to cooperate, even though they don't want to. He's draining the swamp in different ways. And it's a process. If you had a clog in your sink drain in the kitchen, it doesn't drain all at once. Depending the deeper the clog, the longer that takes the cycle to drain. It's the same exact premise. So let's go back to what you were saying briefly. You won't have to expound on it too much, but we had the Trump speaking with Congress and ostensibly the State of the Union last Tuesday night. Do you agree, or do you believe that that was really a narrative for the normies to see how corrupt the deep state through the de facto Democrats has always been?
I had my own observations, but we'll go ahead with that question. So I think, yes, I think it was mostly directed at the normies. I did not see how many people actually watched it. I did, which I didn't have time to, but I did anyway, kind of thing. And there was a whole lot of posturing. I was a little surprised at the high amount of posturing, the Democrats did this and, pointed to that side of the room. Of course, they were heckling him anyways. It's like, is this Parliament or is this Congress? Because it looked like the UK Parliament where they heckle each other. I'm like, people, come on. We changed that. We went to an honorable system. I'll go on a little tangent on that one because
please.
of these little signs that they were holding.
Mm-hmm.
Could that be considered picketing? And if it is that like a strike? And if it is, they just violate federal law because Congress is not allowed to go on strike. I mean, these are just random thoughts, right? So did they get set up? Were they told to do that by, it's all a movie. We've all keep saying that, right? This is all like for show.
That's right.
The Barbie and Ken doll people that are being portrayed and displayed as the new secretaries of all these different departments. I'm like, some of them don't have any experience whatsoever in any of the things that they're actually supposed to be in charge of. And you're like, okay, I'm guessing that's like the figurehead, right? And then behind them are all the people doing all the work. So, is that just part of the central casting that he's saying? Anyway, the other observation I made was the Joint Chiefs of Staff who were in the front row. I think it was on that right side, on the right side where the Democrats were sitting,
Right.
But they never clapped. They never moved. They never did anything. And do you know why? They're not allowed to. They can't show, political leanings or anything, by law. So I was watching them more than anything because with my military background, I'm like, okay, let me see what they're going to do. Are they actors or are they really following, who they are in their oath of office? I'm like, oh, they were being military. So I thought that was interesting. I listened for the word democracy from him. I only heard it once. He could have said it another time that I missed, but that was the one time I heard it. And then I always listen around when he says that word, because it's usually something important he's going to say, or because you and I go, what? We are not a democracy. Never have been.
We're a republic.
We are a republic. There are a few democratic principles, but there's the word democracy does not show up anywhere in any of our founding documents. So, that's been a lie this whole time. So anyways, when it comes from his mouth, and that's usually I perk up, and go, okay, what's he going to say here? Because he's got our attention now. So those were my thoughts as I was watching this, but a whole lot of accusations and, we're in this dire straits because of you. And, because our border was left open because of you, and all these kinds of things. And I'm like, okay, is this part of the show? Because like, he didn't have to say that. We already know, for the normies.
Right.
right? So
Exactly.
yes, I agree with you, because that's what I was seeing was everyone's now listening to Trump and he's saying it's their fault. Why did he have to say that? So
Mm.
and but then there's this, us and them kind of divide, right? He's still kind of perpetuating. When you and I know that when this republic is restored, there are no political parties. We go back to whoever gets the most votes as president, whoever gets the second most votes as vice president. That's the way it was originally. And so now, do we want to fix that? Well, maybe, because if you're going to have arch enemies, one be president, one be vice president, that's probably not a good thing.
Mm-mm.
But that's not up to us. In this re-inhabited republic, we are interim seat holders, we're position holders. And then when the election occurs, then all of these things can be evaluated. So that's where we're at.
Absolutely. And also notice, Sandy, as you know, for posterity, was held on March 4th.
The original inauguration date.
The original inauguration date. So I know that wasn't, we're watching a movie where this is all scripted, as you said. And you're right. We're so ensconced in it, all of us, especially you and I, at the quote unquote front lines, that you sometimes have to go, wait a minute, this isn't for me, it's for them. You have to remember to think logically, not emotionally, because it's two divergently different narratives being put out, right?
Absolutely.
And then you had the military sitting up front, you had the Supreme Court there, was sort of being isolated.
Not all of them, though. Did you notice that?
I did. Good point. That's a good point.
Where were they?
Gitmo?
Hope so.
Pretty sure they are. There's a reason that he's expanding into 30,000 people. Why they put so much emphasis on that too. So, Sandy, as you always do, put a nice bow on this for us, if you don't mind. We're at today's March 10th. We're ostensibly headed to the middle of the month for all intents and purposes, and we know how fast time goes. We have a looming government shutdown, which I think this time is going to stick, and is a great time to gut the fat in the continuation of the reveal. We're sort of, like I said, coming to the midway point. At this point, from what you can see in your optical lens, with everything I showed you, with everything you already know to be true, parsing that all together, where do you see us at this point? And would you be encouraged that you see things transacting both geopolitically and financially sooner than later with the progress we're making?
So I have the lens of the Republic. So I am going to give you what I know based upon that interaction. So the corporation, the corporate crime syndicate that we've had since 1871, that's been pretending to be our government, they need to be destroyed. But the White Hats have always chosen the option with the least amount of violence and death. Whatever that is, if they've got 5 choices, they're going to always pick the one with the least amount of violence and death. That's just, when you look at the entire history of all the things that have happened over the last 10, even 20 years, that has been their basic, method, is always to pick that way. And so that's how we knew that Trump had to win the election, because it was the least amount of violence and death. So he had to have a fair enough election to get elected. He had to not get killed before the inauguration. He has to now do as quickly as he can a takedown of this corporate crime syndicate, because, little old Sandy, yeah, I could just fire everybody, but would that be the least amount of violence and death? Maybe not. And so Doge, which actually comes from Obama, which I think is hilarious.
Yeah.
That they just repurposed something that he had passed in order to do something evil. And now it's doing something, well, we hope it's doing something really good. It's visually appearing to be doing something really good. And slashing all this pork and overspending and corruption and grift and everything else.
Yeah.
Because Trump is the CEO, president, of the corporation. He has to be, because he has to be using these executive orders, again, the weapons of the corporate crime syndicate against the corporate crime syndicate, which is just beautiful karma. And he's doing it as fast as possible, kind of to keep them back on their heels, right? So that they can't come back at him with whatever. Now they're starting to figure that out, and they're starting to they'll file the lawsuits and all that kind of stuff. But he's just working so fast, which is, of course, in our minds, fantastic.
Mhm.
We kind of knew it was going to come fast, whatever this is. We're expecting that when the White Hats feel like they have cleaned up enough, then that's going to be when they remove all the other people and put in the Republic interim people like me to temporarily run the government as the lawful civil authority while the military goes around and does all the things that they've been planning and need to do in order to clean up the rest. And then we hold elections, and then we go from there. We are still being told by the folks that are the insiders that everything happens simultaneously. So Nasara, whether there's just Sara anymore, I don't know. There's some, now I'm hearing from my insiders, well, maybe it won't be global for a while. I'm like, really? That sucks, because we thought it was going to be everybody be happy all at the same time. So Nasara, revaluations, taking out the Fed, replacing the dollar, the Fed dollar, with a real gold-backed currency.
Yep.
I think, have we talked about the pallets of dollars, the new dollars that are already in all the banks around the country?
We talked about it, but you can reprise it. That's fine.
Okay. Yeah. Just, it's one statement. It's just what I've been told again by the insiders is that in the large banking repository, so we're talking about I don't know, some giant vault somewhere for Chase and for Wells Fargo and whatever.
Right.
In the major cities, that they've got pallets and pallets and pallets of completely shrink wrapped and nobody can get in of the new currency.
US note.
The US note, yeah, or the Treasury
note, yeah.
Yeah. And so that's what will eventually replace. Now, whether it'll be a 1-for-1, I have no idea. I am not a financial advisor. I'm not a financial anything. I'm a scientist. So as long as the people still have enough to live on, least amount of violence and death, then I don't think it matters what that number is. But it will just switch. I'm told QFS, which is an what is that? It comes out of BRICS. So because of BRICS, we have QFS. This is what I was told. And so that is going to replace SWIFT. That's going to be the new under everything banking system. And it's actually in all the countries now.
Yep.
Just waiting. It's in beta testing. There's a couple of places where it was needed to be started up early. And so they're using it because I guess they had nothing else or something. Anyway, don't know the details on that. And so that happens at the same time as the revaluations of the ZIM, the Dong, the dinar, and the other ones around the world.
Right.
And bringing everybody back into, I don't want to say a unified financial system, but right now it's kind of hodgepodge, and there's so many backdoors into SWIFT and all the rest of it. And they just steal the money right out of the chain, so here goes the money and and it's gone.
Yeah.
It's like
intercepted. Yeah.
Intercepted. Yeah. First down.
Flag on the play. Major flag. Yeah.
Major flag.
Well,
multiple flags.
Multiple flags. Egregious.
Yeah. So
flags.
that's what, we've been told since the first couple of days, since the days that they approached this group of people that re-inhabited this republic. We take an oath to the original Constitution up to December of 1860, because that's when the first state left the Union. That was South Carolina, December 20th, 1860. Go back to December 19th of 1860, because that's where we know we don't have cancer. You know what I'm saying? After that, it's like, well, we don't know for sure. So that's the date that was picked. And so everything reverts to that date. No FBI, no CIA, no IRS, no CDC, no FDA, no USD. I mean, it goes on and on and on.
Yeah.
And so what do we see happening? I mean, this is for lack of a better word, the transition plan that this republic has been saying we're going to do, not knowing how we're going to do it because we don't have this kind of expertise. And then now we see Trump doing it, and we're like, this is cool. So,
yep.
Did we happen to latch into, by accident, exactly what needed to happen and what's happening? it just seems to make sense that this is what needs to happen. So we're very encouraged by that. And
Mhm.
we just, continue to pop the popcorn like you do and watch the show. So
No, it's well said. And I can corroborate and confirm, Sandy, that the ISO 20022 blockchain QFS is supporting the new financial system through BRICS. They work intercongruently. XRP is the key. I was going to say the symbol of X marking the spot is the key that conjoins it all, right? Yeah, will be a new treasury note backed in gold and silver, as you were alluding to. They will pay people during the exchange electronically. You will have access to some cash. You wouldn't want to carry out $100,000 in cash, makes you a target, right? But if you need, I don't know, 5, 10,000, whatever, you'll be able to get that no problem. And yes, they have had those USTN notes or US notes, treasury notes in a lot of the vaults for years. Interestingly enough, I'm going to coordinate, or excuse me, I should say correlate something that seems like a non-issue to an issue, but there's parallels within the parallels, and I just think creatively like you do, and in your case analytically also. Notice how we passed an executive order to make English the first language, which should have always been, but it sounds common sense, but that's part of the nationalizing process, I believe. Straws now are back. All of a sudden, when I've gone out to eat, we don't have to ask them for straws, and they bring us the real plastic ones, not the crappy paper ones that dissolve and don't work and clog everything up, which tells me that they probably had those straws sitting in the back the entire time just waiting, because restaurants don't typically throw things away if they don't have to, right? That's just good supply chain management. Conversely, makes me think that those US Treasury notes have been sitting in the vault for a long time, just waiting for the supplanting and the switching of the useless Federal Reserve note, which is neither federal has any reserves, right? So I say that to articulate and corroborate against what you were sharing. So we could go on for days on this podcast, but we want to be succinct, both of us, and respect our time and everyone's time respectively. So
Can I bring up one point on what you said, though, that I want to kind of plant a seed for everyone to think about?
Please.
The thing with the straws seems really random. Why straws? Straw man?
Straw man accounts.
Is he given a sign here?
Uh-huh.
Is this is that the closest he could get to saying straw man?
Mm-hmm.
Because it got a lot of the Patriot podcasters to start talking about that. Why did he do straws? Is that a straw man? And so now, and then the normies are going, what's that? And that's exactly what we need to have happen. Because
I just said that.
probably one of the overarching conclusions here is this central casting show that we're watching, it's not for you and me.
Mm-mm.
It's for all the normies that haven't awakened yet, because we're upset, right? We're like, dang it, hurry up.
Mm-hmm.
Like, no. We got all these people behind us that we can't leave behind. We got to take them all with us.
Right. He's
doing that. He's educating. And if you notice, it's about one major thing a week. So it's about, their attention span, right? Can kind of handle about a week, one thing per week, one major thing per week, right? So just keep an eye on that. I want you guys to kind of look at it from that perspective. I'm going to plant some seeds, and that's all I'm going to say.
Glad you said that. Yes, sus to QV and all of our bonds that are treasury bonds, what am I usually have this on the top of my head, the birth certificate bonds, all that kind of stuff that has been stolen from us, that yes, folks, totals in the multi-billions. We've done the math. You can take your treasury vault bonds, you can put them into a Fidelity account or whatever you've got, Schwab, and it will calculate all that. I've done that out, and it's pretty significant. They've been living off of our interest because, as you know, banks don't produce any products or services. And so when you take a mortgage, which is by Black's Law, 4th edition dictionary, a debtor's prison, we've discussed before, for reprise, they're using your bonds to collateralize you, and then having the audacity, is a nice word to put for today, to charge you taxation and interest on something that was inherently your own and never theirs. That's all being unwound. But I can assure you, Sandy, on one key point, Jasara will happen. It happens as a function of Nasara, and it will make its way through by sending people back. They have to go back to a safe and prosperous country. Otherwise, it defeats the purpose. So I
brought that up is because America might be way ahead now. And now, just like we did with the normies, right? We got to bring them ahead with us.
Right.
we got to bring the other countries in with us too. And so Jasara might be delayed. It might not happen at exactly the same time as Masara. And it's just God's plan, so we can guess all we want and then we watch what really happens. So, but that's what I was just told, was that Jasara might not happen at the same time. Should still happen because we have to do this to every country in the world. But yeah.
No, it's as our president says, we'll have to wait and see how it plays out, which is funny because we already know he knows that, but again, not for us, for the mainstream of society. And, as Christians, we know Christ is compassionate with us so that we will give it to others, even if our knowledge base is ahead of even people in our church. And whether it's in an area of Bible study or the fruits of the Spirit, whatever it is, we're like, why don't they know it? Well, he was gracious with us and we didn't know it. And so we have to get out of our flesh and back into the right perspective of things, to your point. So as we wrap up today, Sandy, where can people find your work as always? And any last thoughts you have for the audience today?
Sure. So if you feel compelled to help out your republic, serve your country, it's called the Re-Inhabited Republic. Our website is pretty easy to find. It's actually going to redirect you. It's Republic for FOR USA.org. And that will bring you to what we call the members website. And there's a tab there that says register. I'm sorry, it's a corporate word. We can't think of a better one. Just click on that and follow all the little instructions, and that should connect you to your state. And you can find out where are your skills needed. And so you can have a conversation with your governor and go from there. So we need a lot of help at the counties, county assemblies, county clerk, county justice in the republic, not the corporation.
Mhm.
We don't talk to them. We just run in parallel. And we've been doing that ever since 2010. So that's it. Republic4USA.org. Thank you.
I'll leave that. You're welcome. I'll leave that link in the description. As always, you could suggest word that came to mind, Sandy, is you could try onboard instead of register. Maybe that'll help.
And then people won't know what that means, but
True.
what do you do on a ship?
Hmm.
Go on board.
On board. That's true.
It's still corporate. It's still
maritime.
maritime.
There's no perfect thing, but
We can't come up with one. Even sign up signing is a corporate word. You autograph. It's just, we gave up.
Join.
We gave up.
Something. Anyway.
Register.
Right. Yeah. Is there a question that came up on one of our Rumble comment sections was, is there somebody that personally responds to that as a customer service person, gets back to them? How's that work?
Are you talking about on the website?
Yes.
So we direct, there's like an auto direct that goes to the actual state.
Okay.
So if you mark the box that says, I'd like to help out, that will go to the state email. And then the governor, secretary of state, whoever is monitoring that box should respond to you within a few days. Now, we talked a little bit last time that we are being infiltrated, and there are some folks that are trying to undo what the Republic has done. If that's not a sign that we've actually done it correctly, I don't know what is, because if we weren't valid, why do you have to take us down?
Yeah.
Anyway, so there's a little bit of a distraction going on behind the scenes, but we will eventually answer every single email. Just be persistent. Make sure, did this email go through, and send another one. We are absolutely happy to answer. Well, like, yes, we're here. Just give us some time. Sorry.
Appreciate that.
Yep.
You could do like Tennessee, volunteers. Could use that word.
Mm-hmm.
It's constitutional.
Yep.
Folks, as you know, we do have some great sponsors for precious metals, which we hold ourselves. So we recommend you do your diligence and take a look at them, which we'll leave a link in the description for you. And also, as Sandy was talking about, as we always do with respect to the currencies, whether it's Iraq dinar, Vietnamese dong, Zim bonds, Venezuelan bolivar, Thai baht, and a whole host of other currencies like the Colombian peso and many, many more. If you have it or you're trying to get more of it, the window, as you can see, is closing. The walls are closing in as we're giving you the timeline. So take advantage of it while you can get it, because when it's done, it's done. And we'll leave that link in the description as well. Cindy Miarecki, thank you for joining us. Thank you for your service. Appreciate your time and insightful information. We pray you have a blessed day, and we look forward to talking with you again shortly.
Thank you, John.
Thanks, Cindy.